Good evening. Tonight, a state of emergency declared here in New York City and in New Jersey. Torrential downpours triggering some of the worst flooding we've seen in decades. And that rain is not letting up just yet. Take a look at this. This is a construction site in Brooklyn. The floodwaters rushing in so fast. This worker getting stuck. You see him right there in shoulder deep water. And we have seen similar shocking scenes all throughout the city. I want to walk you through some of those images as this flood impacted virtually all modes of transportation. We start at the airport, right? For those traveling by air, this was a situation at LaGuardia this morning. Passengers walking through ankle-deep water, seems like we've never seen before, or at least not in a long time. This happened near the check-in counters. The airport shutting down Terminal A entirely. We're going to have an update from there in just a few moments. And underground water bursting through the walls at subway stops. Look at this, a waterfall raining down from the grates above. And the roads no better. Water rushing into the city. And this bus here, you can see what happened. Passengers were forced to climb up onto their seats. What a crazy scene. And gushing floodwaters grinding traffic to a halt on one of Manhattan's busiest highways, and dangerous scenes for people who need to walk anywhere today. Pedestrians stuck in waist-deep water as this Brooklyn intersection turned into a whirlpool. We've got our team spread out across the city covering this historic downpour. Bill Karen standing by to tell us when this all will end. But first, I want to get to my friend NBC's Stephanie Gosk, who is in waterlogged Brooklyn tonight. So, Stephanie, walk us through what you're seeing. And is it still raining there?
Yeah, it is still raining, Tom. And you know, that transportation nightmare that you just very well described throughout the day, that has not ended. And these people trying to get home are really struggling. The reality is that it rained so hard and so fast, the water had nowhere to go. It was 2 to 3 months of rain in a single day. And here in Brooklyn, there were places where it rained almost 3 inches in a single hour. And although it has let up a little bit, the damage is done. When the rain started coming down, it didn't stop overnight and into rush hour. New York City grinding nearly to a halt.
This is time for heightened alertness and extreme caution.
States of emergency declared in New York and New Jersey, with major roadways flooded.
Oh my God.
Drivers in stalled cars had to be rescued in the city and its suburbs, along with several people living in basement apartments. The heaviest rain hitting neighborhoods in Brooklyn and Queens. Transportation has been a nightmare. One city bus braving a flooded street while passengers had no choice but get soaked. The rain impacting every subway line. Some shut down altogether. In train stations, water poured through grates, flowed down stairs, and even gushed straight out of the walls.
The trains weren't running because of flooding.
Commuter trains in and out of the city shut down. Hundreds of flights canceled. At JFK, it was the wettest day ever recorded, while at LaGuardia, an entire terminal had to be closed when rainwater poured into departures.
It was all bad, honestly. Like, you had water coming in all through the bathrooms, all through the entrance there.
Some areas could see 10 inches before it's all over. High-intensity rainfall like this, an effect of climate change. The conditions so bad it reminded many New Yorkers of the remnants of Hurricane Ida that swept in and killed 13 people 2 years ago. Many of the deaths then happening in basement apartments where flash floods caught families by surprise. The governor telling people today not to take any chances.
Leave your home if you're starting to see water accumulate. Don't wait until it's up to your knees or higher.
Tonight, another rush hour, and still the rain has not stopped.
Stephanie joins us live again from Prospect Park in Brooklyn. So, Stephanie, that state of emergency declared this morning, but only after many had already headed off to work and school. And the mayor getting a lot of criticism for not talking to New Yorkers earlier in the day and even last night. So why weren't residents warned?
Yeah, you know, the thing is, I think people's frustration today was that it took so long to get that announcement out there, especially after kids got on buses. The worst of the rain happened during the commute between 8 and 9. There were some warnings given last night. There were some watches in effect, flood watches. People were given warnings about the commute in the morning, but no one really understood exactly the effect it was going to have and how much rain that they were going to get. There really wasn't much they could do with that much rain in such a short period of time. All those trains being shut down and commuter rails being shut down, flights canceled. That was going to happen either way, Tom.
And then, Stephanie, as well, residents, what are they being advised to do tonight as we head into another night of more rain?
Well, they're being advised to stay indoors. I mean, some are already out at work and are trying to get home, and the rain is going to continue to fall, and we're still going to be dealing with rising waters. And we now know the drill here in New York City now, Tom, because we've been seeing more and more of these intense rainstorms. We know the locations that are going to flood. I happen to be standing in one of them. People just should stay home. Don't go out.
All right, Stephanie Gosk leading us off tonight from Brooklyn for more on all this dangerous flooding that has crippled parts of New York City tonight. WNBC reporter Andrew Swift joins us now from LaGuardia. Andrew, I was watching you all morning. Those images coming out of Terminal A were pretty hard to believe. Walk our viewers through exactly what happened there.
Well, Terminal A is an unusual part of LaGuardia, which most of our viewers will know underwent this huge renovation. But that was Terminals B and C. Terminal A is a landmark. It's old-fashioned, and it sits in the floodplain. So when it rains like this, water gets in. But it hasn't rained like this before. 6 to 8 inches of water inundated that terminal so fast that the officials from the Port Authority were ordering the terminal closed before they had a chance to notify the airlines. And as a result, that was before the airlines could tell the passengers. It got pretty chaotic pretty quickly here, Tom.
Yeah, that's right, Andrew. I know you were reporting this earlier, but people were getting sort of emails that just that their flight was delayed, and they had no idea that the terminal had turned into a swimming pool.
That's exactly right. And so you have Spirit Airlines and Frontier. They're the two carriers at this terminal. And really, things were happening so fast, their computer systems hadn't been updated. If flight attendants or flight crews were checking in to see the status of a flight, it would still say that it was on. So they were telling people, oh, just go to the airport and ask for someone at Terminal A to tell you when it's taking off, not realizing there was no Terminal A to go into. So it was one of those situations where the developments were so quick that the airlines really didn't have the information to relate it to the passengers. You're always told, check with your airline before you arrive. But in this case, that wasn't enough.
Yeah, and the mayor getting a lot of flack, we know, for not warning people in New York City with enough time. I do want to ask you, what's happening with the terminal there? Is it going to reopen? And when do we know flights will be landing and taking off again?
Great question. They did spend hours and hours with squeegees, power vacs, and brooms. They got all the water out of the terminal now. They're hoping for a partial reopening just before 11 p.m. for one arriving flight. Full reopening 4 a.m. on Saturday. A long, wet day here at Terminal A. Tom?
All right, one of the best reporters in New York City, Andrew Swift from our mother station, WNBC. We thank you for that. Flood watch is still in effect for 23 million people as we head in tonight. So let's get right to NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, still kind of wet out there, but you were telling me earlier the worst may be over?
Yeah, we're getting towards the tail end of our flash flooding. We've had 13 hours straight tracking flash flood warning. It started in New York City and Brooklyn, and now we're out here on Long Island. But there could be some redevelopment tonight, so they've left up these flash flood watches through the overnight hours. But you know, we're not going to see anything like the pictures we've been showing you. And some of the rainfall totals pretty incredible. I mean, you average about 3.5 inches typically in September throughout this region. JFK today, 8.5 inches. Central Park up to almost 6 inches. So let's start at JFK, 8.65 inches. They've been keeping records there since 1949. This is roughly 27,000 days. And this was the most rain ever that they've seen in one 24-hour period. And this September rainfall, you know, typically is about 3.5 inches. Central Park, a little less than that, but still pretty incredible. The 9th rainiest day ever. And New York Central Park records, those go all the way back to 1869. So the 9th rainiest day at 154 years. So the heavy rain has left New York City. It's out here on Long Island. If we have any areas of concern where flash flooding is still developing or happening, it's going to be with this band here from Islip out here right on the border of Nassau and Suffolk counties. Even in Connecticut, things are beginning to improve. The rivers in New Jersey have crested and are coming down. Same with most of the rivers in areas of Connecticut. This is the additional rainfall, maybe another inch out here on Long Island. But you notice New York City, JFK, we're only going to add about 1/4 inch to maybe 1/10 of an inch or so as we go throughout tonight and early tomorrow morning. So it's not going to be a pretty night. Visibility is still low. The roads are still wet. They're still ponding on the roads. And as we go through tomorrow morning, one last slap of rain. Then it all clears out as we go through Saturday afternoon, Tom. You know, this is the 3rd time in the last 3 years that New York City has seen an event similar to this. Before that, it had been decades before we saw anything like this. Climate change showing its face.
Bill Cairns for us. Bill, we appreciate you walking us through all that. Ahead to Capitol Hill, where the clock is counting down towards a government shutdown. A last-ditch effort by House Speaker McCarthy failing today as families across the country brace for the loss of income and government resources. NBC's Garrett Hake has the latest on negotiations.
Tonight, the federal government on the brink of shutdown.
The bill is not passed.
21 House Republicans joining with Democrats to defeat Speaker McCarthy's latest stopgap plan to keep the government open while slashing spending.
Look up the word dysfunction in the dictionary and you'll see United States Congress drawn to 1/43rd scale.
A handful of hardline conservatives demanding even more spending cuts.
The American people get screwed with more debt and more spending that they do not want.
Sparking Republican anger with just one day left to pass a spending bill and avoid a midnight shutdown Saturday.
They killed the most conservative position we could take and then called themselves the real conservatives, which is like, make that make sense. You can't make it make sense.
The speaker looking to shift blame if 3.5 million federal workers are forced to forego paychecks, though most will receive back pay when a shutdown ends.
Mr. Speaker, what do you say to federal workers who are worried about their paychecks? That this is a political gamble. They're worried about their
question. So I'm saying the Republicans in here are trying to keep the government open. It sounds like you think the Democrats are going to shut it down. I don't think government should shut down.
As President Biden warned of the impact on 2 million military families who will serve without pay.
We can't be playing politics while our troops stand in the breach. It's an absolute dereliction of duty.
Families like Jessica Manfries. Her husband serves in the Coast Guard. Her message for lawmakers.
If you believe in this country, if you believe in the people that are willing to lay their lives down to defend it, then show us. Work together.
All right, with that, Garrett Hake joins us tonight from Capitol Hill. Garrett, is there any chance that this shutdown could be averted at the 11th hour?
Tom, it's getting less and less likely by the moment. The House went from this morning having a plan they knew wouldn't work to this evening having no plan at all. And the Senate has gone home for the evening. They're not back until tomorrow afternoon. So right now, both parties are trying to come to grips with the eventual solution here, which is that they're probably going to have to come to some kind of bipartisan solution. But whether that's done after the pain of a shutdown is felt or before remains the only real operative question right now.
All right, Garrett Hake. And while those nearly 4 million federal employees Garrett was talking about brace for a potential shutdown, a closed government could have major impacts on the private sector as well. Everything from critical food assistance programs to travel and even some leisure activities could be affected. Priscilla Thompson explains.
If the government shuts down, even those not on Uncle Sam's payroll will likely feel the pain. For people who rely on the federal government for food assistance, the White House says food stamps can stay funded through at least October. But another program that helps feed nearly 7 million women and children could run dry in just days.
If these people lose this little bit of what they get already, not only is it going to cause so many people to go hungry, but it's also going to affect so many pantries like myself. I think it's kind of hard for a lot of people to realize just how serious it is.
The White House also says 10,000 children would immediately lose access to year-round care provided by the Head Start program. And although student loan payments would still be due, an Education Department planning memo said new loans may be disrupted. At the nation's airports, TSA agents and air traffic controllers would still be expected to work without pay while lawmakers still get their checks.
That's 100% wrong. If they're not going to pay the necessary employees to do work, they shouldn't get paid either.
During the last shutdown in 2019, many of those air traffic controllers stopped showing up, grounding planes at New York's LaGuardia Airport.
The consequences would be disruptive and dangerous.
Well, 423 national parks across the country could be shuttered, meaning services including trash collection, bathroom cleanup, and campground operations would all be halted. Federal museums could also close, the Smithsonian saying for now it will remain open along with the National Zoo until at least October 7th using prior year funds. And a sobering shutdown fact, the Treasury Department agency that signs off on new alcohol labels and exports would also be closed, which could leave millions of liters of wine, beer, and spirits stranded at ports. And Tom, as it relates to the national parks, you may remember during the shutdown in 2019, people continued coming to the parks. They were overwhelmed. We even saw vandalism in some places, including in California, where Joshua trees were destroyed. And so the U.S. Department of Interior is urging people not to come to the national parks and national preserves if this shutdown happens. And that is in order to preserve and to protect these beautiful places. Tom?
Okay, Priscilla Thompson with that new reporting there on the parks. We want to turn to our other major headline from Capitol Hill as well. The country's longest-serving female senator, Dianne Feinstein, has died at 90 years old. The senior senator from California was first elected in 1992 and vowed to serve out the rest of her term despite a prolonged illness earlier this year. NBC's Andrea Mitchell now with a look back at her incredible life and legacy.
Tonight, tributes from both sides of the aisle for Dianne Feinstein, her desk draped in black, a vase of white roses, for a senator known for sending flowers to colleagues.
Today, there are 25 women serving in this chamber, and every one of them will admit they stand on Dianne's shoulders.
Her beloved home state of California and our entire nation are better for her dogged advocacy and diligent service.
The country's going to miss her dearly. And so will Jill and I.
And women senators for whom she painted watercolors.
Every time I would pass by, I would look at it and think about how talented Dianne was in so many different areas.
Feinstein's political career began in tragedy. November 1978, San Francisco Mayor George Moscone and Board of Supervisors member Harvey Milk were assassinated in City Hall.
Both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Cementing her lifelong commitment to gun safety. Elected San Francisco's mayor, she was on Democratic nominee Walter Mondale's shortlist for running mate before he chose Geraldine Ferraro.
I've had an opportunity now to be the first woman and the first mayor to be asked to go through an interview process. And I view that as a major opening of a door.
It was the public outcry over the all-male Judiciary Committee's grilling of Anita Hill at the Clarence Thomas hearings that got Feinstein to the Senate, where Judiciary Chairman Joe Biden made her the committee's first woman. She immediately led the charge to pass an assault weapons ban. As the first woman to chair the Intelligence Committee, she took on the CIA's waterboarding of prisoners, leading to the outlawing of the Bush administration's harsh interrogations. In later years, she showed signs of age and poor health, noticeably frail when returning to the Senate after an absence, but rallying, voting yesterday before a visit with former Congresswoman Jane Harman.
I went there because I miss her, and she's been voting as she always did.
Always opening doors for women.
Dianne left us the way she lived, on her own terms. She knew what she wanted to get accomplished. She respected diversity of opinion. She was as bipartisan as they come.
Dianne Feinstein did it her way, always bipartisan, even if frustrating some Democrats, but true to herself. Tom.
Andrea Mitchell with that look back. Andrea, thank you. Senator Feinstein's colleagues and constituents alike remembering her storied career. So what will her legacy be on Capitol Hill, and what's next for California's residents? I want to bring in NBC's Ali Vitale, who joins us from Capitol Hill. Ali, I want to talk to you about her legacy in a moment, but first, walk our viewers through what's next with that Senate seat now in California.
Well, look, as is often the case in these situations, Tom, immediately the thought turns to politics, specifically what's going to happen to the senior senator's seat in a California Senate race that is already very crowded with people waiting to succeed her, because, of course, we knew that this was going to be Feinstein's last term regardless. In the interim period now, it's all on California Governor Gavin Newsom to appoint a successor who will serve out the rest of this term. That means until the end of 2024. It's likely that that's not going to be one of the people who's currently running for this Senate seat, but it's unclear when and who that is going to be. A source close to the governor is saying to us tonight that that decision will come in a few days, Tom.
All right, we're going to have to wait and see who he appoints. Our NBC News team spoke with some voters in California today to get their reactions on this passing. Let's listen to them, and then I want to talk to you about what they said after.
What a woman. What a woman. I was so sad to hear it. I mean, it was time. She was getting on, obviously, in years and had difficulty making votes and doing what she really needed to do. But at the same time, my God, her legacy is just incredible.
I think it's sad that, someone died. I think it's sad that, she
died in office, I think it's a good reminder that we really need to be having term limits that someone at I think she was 90, right? Mm-hmm. Someone at 90 has the ability to die in office, and I also think that someone at that age shouldn't be making our decisions, and she also should just be enjoying her life.
Ellie, I know people are still mourning her and remembering her, but
Yeah.
I'm wondering if people are having that conversation on Capitol Hill today, just because there was sort of that debate starting. We've talked about this a lot on our show. There are a lot of members of Congress and people in politics who are sort of getting up there in age and still they want to stay in office. And the question becomes, should they?
It's impossible not to have this conversation at this point, Tom, in part because she did die while still serving in office, but also because this is a conversation that's being had around the halls of Congress, not just in the Senate, where it's a conversation about Senator Feinstein and also Senator Mitch McConnell, who has suffered recent health scares in public view in recent months. But it's also a conversation that's being had around President Joe Biden, concerns that voters have about his age. So it's not entirely surprising that as these voters, even just the few of them that we showed there, as they remember their senator, their former senator, that they would talk about her trailblazing legacy, which of course Andrea knows so well, but also that they would talk about the final months of her time here spent in Washington, where it wasn't clear that she was always up to the task of doing the job of a senator. You'll remember earlier this year, she was homesick in California recovering from shingles for several months. That left Democrats in the lurch on some key votes. There was always politics attached to the discussions around Feinstein's legacy and her health. Of course, now all of those things are discussed together as we remember her.
Ali, one of the great things about NBC News is that we have such a range of reporters that have so much experience. And Andrea was able to cover Dianne Feinstein sort of at the beginning of her congressional career. You've been able to cover towards the end of the career. You've written a lot about women in power, especially women in politics. What will her legacy be, do you believe, there in the halls of Capitol Hill and across this country?
The first thing that I thought of is something that Andrea mentioned in her piece, which is the fact that Feinstein was one of the first women to go through a presidential vetting process. Of course, in 1984, she didn't get the nomination alongside Walter Mondale. The first woman to get that nod ended up being Geraldine Ferraro. But just the fact that the only two women that Mondale could have viably considered was a few-term congresswoman in Ferraro and a mayor in Feinstein said everything that it needed to say about the landscape of where women were serving, or rather not serving, in public life. Now, the fact that as Feinstein is out of office and departs, she's at a point where she's leaving behind more than 24 female senators in this building. When she came into this building as a senator in the 1992 so-called Year of the Woman, that was a big year because there were just a handful of women elected in that cycle. Now we're watching this, each Congress, although it's not as fast as many of us would like, each Congress, we're watching this movement on both sides, but especially the Democratic side, closer and closer to gender parity. The idea that the pipeline is now so full of viable, smart women who can run for higher office is truly a testament to women like Feinstein blazing that trail.
It's a great point. Ali Vitale live for us tonight on Capitol Hill. Ali, great to have you. Still ahead tonight, Gypsy Rose Blanchard about to walk free. The woman whose life story inspired multiple true crime series after she killed her mother has been granted parole when she's getting out of jail. Plus, the Seattle police officer seen and being flippant about a woman who had been killed, now reassigned. What we're hearing from his former department. All right, we are back now with Top Stories news feed and an update on a crime story that gripped the nation and inspired multiple TV shows and movies. The Missouri Department of Corrections confirming to NBC News that Gypsy Rose Blanchard is set to be released on parole in December. In 2016, Blanchard pled guilty to murdering her abusive mother, who fabricated all of her daughter's health issues and forced her into a wheelchair. Blanchard will have served 85% of a 10-year prison sentence. New details tonight on that Seattle police officer caught on camera joking about the death of a graduate student. As we reported earlier this month, dashcam captured the officer saying a 23-year-old woman killed by another officer squad car had, quote, limited value. Seattle police confirming today he was, quote, reassigned and taken off patrol. The crash is still under review by the department. And a scary scene playing out in a restaurant in Pennsylvania. Security video showing a car driving through the wall of the restaurant. You see it right there, plowing by patrons and not stopping until it hit the back wall. Officials say the 88-year-old driver reportedly tried to hit the brake pedal, but instead hit the gas. The driver and another person suffered minor injuries. Okay, and now a new warning for those who use the zero-calorie sweetener stevia. A new study published in the Nature Medical Journal finding that a sugar replacement used in the product is linked to blood clotting, stroke, heart attacks, even death. Researchers say people with existing conditions, including diabetes, were twice as likely to have a heart attack or stroke if they had high levels of the sugar substitute. Okay, now to that massive fentanyl bust right here in New York City. More than 40 pounds of the drug seized. Investigators say the suspect in this case transported pounds of drugs in a suitcase right onto the New York City subway system, endangering thousands. NBC's Rahema Ellis has the details.
This is what DEA investigators say the fentanyl epidemic looks like in a New York City apartment. Bricks on top of a dresser, 40 pounds in all. A street value estimated at $1.5 million, all seized by federal, state, and local law enforcement. A glass table set up for packaging, complete with scales, bright light, and a powdery residue. A video surveillance system to keep watch, and stamps and labels to put on the packaging. While these suspected drugs never made it to the street, police say a majority of it was transferred on the subway. Narcotics prosecutors allege defendant Herrera Vargas rolled this suitcase on the subway filled with 30 pounds of fentanyl, endangering thousands of subway riders. Vargas has pleaded not guilty. This case just the latest in the growing nationwide fentanyl epidemic. Just 6 blocks from the daycare where a child died from fentanyl exposure in a separate case earlier this month.
We know that fentanyl is a nearly invisible poison and that many people who take it have no idea that they are taking it.
The CDC estimates synthetic opioids like fentanyl are responsible for over 60,000 drug overdose deaths in 2022. Attorney General Merrick Garland addressing families of those who lost loved ones to the drug earlier this week.
We will never give up our efforts to pursue justice for them and for you, and we will never relent in our efforts to hold accountable those who are responsible for their deaths.
Garland also announcing an additional $345 million in Justice Department funding to combat this epidemic. For places like Quincy, Massachusetts, that help can't come soon enough.
We've seen an uptick in fatal overdoses, and we believe that fentanyl and xylazine contribute to that.
Quincy police say the city saw 19 overdose deaths last year and already reached 19 deaths in 2023 as of last week.
The problem is getting worse because there's so many pills out there.
An epidemic raging further out of control. Every brick evidence of the deadliest overdose crisis in U.S. history. Rahema Ellis, NBC News.
Next, to a special look at the murder that rocked a Dallas community. Jamie Faith gunned down one morning in 2020 while walking with his wife and dog outside their home. The details that emerged revealing a web of lies between the couple. Here's a look ahead to tonight's season premiere of Dateline with correspondent Josh Mankiewicz, who spoke to the convicted killer.
You really never stopped thinking about her, did you?
No, I didn't.
This is one of the craziest stories. It's going down in history.
I woke up that morning and Smashed the Topic was reporting that there had been a shooting. Everybody was on high alert that there was a killer in our neighborhood.
Why did they shoot Jamie down in front of his home, in front of his wife?
Everyone had that same sense that I had, which is, this could have been me.
What kind of marriage do you have? It's perfect.
Other couples were jealous of their relationship because they were so close.
What you find after that, I'm pretty sure you've never seen before.
No, the case takes a dramatic twist for sure.
Here she is living a double life.
But it was really a triple or quadruple life, wasn't it?
It was.
What kind of person does that?
I don't know, a crazy person, obviously. But it's so much more than that.
He said, I reconnected with an old girlfriend.
You think she was ever in love with you?
I don't know.
This murder doesn't happen without both of them.
I think the story is the cautionary tale that maybe some people are better left in your past.
You can see the full story tonight during the 2-hour season premiere of Dateline that airs at 9 p.m. Eastern on NBC. Okay, coming up, students in Ukraine forced to learn any way they can. And during war, that means going underground. Our Richard Engel takes us into Ukraine's newest classrooms and the effort to keep kids in school. Stay with us. Back now with the latest on the war in Ukraine. Constant Russian bombing in Kharkiv has forced students there to head underground into the subways where it's safest to teach and learn. NBC's chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has the details.
For children in Ukraine, back to school means heading back into the subways as air raid sirens wail.
Russian forces still bomb Kharkiv almost every day, so teaching classes in the subways is safer. But there's also a practical reason. Nearly half of the city's regular schools have been destroyed.
The subway station is open, but in the lit rooms above the tracks, there's an elementary school. The kids seem to be doing great, but that's what worries the teachers, who don't want war to seem normal.
How do you think the war has changed these children? Do you think it's changing how they think?
Yes, it impacts everything. There will be after effects for many, many years, says Anna Nezhlova.
Give me 10. All right? Too slow. What's it like when you hear the air raid sirens go off?
Here, I don't hear the sirens at all. At home, they scare me so much, she says.
What do your parents tell you about the war?
I know they want our territory because we are quite a rich country and they want to take it away, says Sophia, who's 6 years old. At school in the subway, lunch is a highlight. Teachers here are working to make sure this generation of war gets at least a taste of childhood.
Many parents will understand how kids complain about going to school. Not here. The children we saw were running to go to school. It is the best part of their day by far, even in the subway.
Going to school underground in a subway station. Okay, Richard Engel for us inside Ukraine once again. Okay, let's get a check of what else is happening around the world. It's time for Top Stories Global Watch. We begin with a deadly bombing in Pakistan, a suspected suicide bomber targeting a crowd of hundreds who were celebrating the birth date of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. The blast killing at least 52 people while injuring almost 70 more. A separate mosque bombing in another part of the country, also leaving at least 5 dead. No one has yet claimed responsibility for that attack. The Swedish government is calling in the country's military to help combat escalating gang violence. An unprecedented crime wave has seen the death of 12 people in September alone, including a bombing that killed an innocent bystander on Thursday. The nation's prime minister issuing a rare televised address saying the police and armed forces will, quote, hunt gangs and defeat them. And tens of thousands taking to the streets across Latin America in support of legal abortion. Women dressed in green calling for safe abortion access in countries like Peru and Ecuador. In Argentina, marchers protesting a far-right presidential candidate who they say could roll back abortion legislation there. And in Mexico, abortion advocates celebrating the Supreme Court decriminalizing the procedure earlier this month. That does it for us tonight here on Top Story. We thank you for watching. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.